All right, Internet, we are back after quite a few weeks break, and today we're going to be talking about this book right here, Plato at the Googleplex, and the subtitle is Why Philosophy Won't Go Away by Rebecca Newberger Goldstein.
We hope.
Goldstein? It's one of those
Apologize if
two.
we're wrong.
Yeah,
Apologize
yeah.
if we're wrong.
So we haven't been able to discern exactly which one it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
What's the point anyway? Who cares? It's all useless.
yeah. That's your typical philosophy question, asking about the pronunciation of her name.
Yeah.
Uh, so maybe I suppose you could tell by the subtitle of the book. Not all of it by any means, but a chunk of the book is devoted to what is why does philosophy matter now?
What's the point?
What's the point of philosophy now? And the most of the rest of it is it's mixed in with she reimagines Plato returning back from somewhere, and he appears in the modern day, and he visits all these places, and she has all these kind of dialogues where he's talking to different people, and interspersed with that are kind of her description of Plato's life and how he lived and his philosophy, things like that. So I just like let's start nice and basic. What did you think about the dialogues? The dialogues are obviously the most fun part of the book. I made sure to reread all the dialogues as soon as I got done with the book, and I enjoyed reading them. What did you guys think?
Um, Aside from a few editing nitpicks,
Oh,
I greatly enjoyed every one of them. Um, Characters
so
were nice. The archetypes of the characters were very nice and very real.
mm,
Uh, and yeah, I mean some of these felt very, very, very Plato.
I mean, she went through and yeah, right. It's obvious if you have the book in front of you, right? She went through and tried to use as many direct quotes
Mm.
from Platonic works as possible.
Yeah, but I mean, not just the philosophy. Like I could, if we change the Plato name to Socrates, I could see Plato writing some of these.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
the feel, the style, kind of the dynamic.
Mm.
Yeah. Plato gets a real good deal
Mm.
in this book. Um, it's
Yeah, I
gotta
think
be.
I thought if there's any if there's I enjoyed all the dialogues myself too, Jesse. I liked all the characters and how they played out. If there's anything I would say about it, sometimes some of the characters seem a little bit too laudatory of Plato. I kind of would have liked even a little bit more edge there. I thought it gave more dramatic. I gave him more drama to the scene when there's all this attack on Plato, and then he kind of comes back with this kind of game-winning dialogue or game-winning piece, philosophical thing at the end. But I don't know. It felt like some of the characters were a little bit too oh, Plato. I don't know. I would have even liked a little bit more adversarial aspect to some of them anyway.
Yeah, because in the namesake of this book, the first dialogue, play at the Googleplex. And he gets into his adversary there, Thrasib Marcus,
Yeah.
who was not nearly as adversarious as the character I see him trying to mirror.
Hmm. Yeah, it was the Googleplex thing ended where, in the end, all these guys at the Googleplex were actually kind of secretly big fans already, right? And even Marcus, I guess, was kind of a big fan despite his weird system to get rid of ethics and replace it with a search engine.
Though he was a fan. That's why he was trying to topple his hero there.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's kind of what Plato would want, right? And that was one of the points that emerged in the book, right? When he's talking to the Bill O'Reilly-esque, all too obviously Bill O'Reilly-esque character who ends up talking about how the tides go in and out. I mean, come on, how much more directly Bill O'Reilly could you get on that? But that came out there too. Uh, I thought the Bill O'Reilly dialogue went into a different area than I thought it would. I thought it was going to go somewhere else. It suddenly got into like the beautiful, the true and the good, the beautiful and the good mixing together, and I thought it was going to go somewhere else with that. Oh well. But I enjoyed that one as well.
Yes.
So definitely, I mean, if you want a very lively read, I would say just on the dialogue side, check it out. I highly recommend. Just for our discussion today, we decided to focus mainly on one thing, which is this question: why won't philosophy go away? Or what is the problem? Or I'm sure if you pay attention to the news, you've seen these kind of things erupting in the news recently. But it's always kind of stuff is always around. It's been around for years. But just recently, some more people have said it. People like, Lawrence Krauss and Stephen Hawking. Those guys were kind of, at least Stephen Hawking, I guess, was kind of referring to the philosophy of science, how he thought it was meaningless and basically dead. Also, there's some other ones. Even good old Neil deGrasse Tyson. Here's a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson: "Philosophers are the would-be scientist without a laboratory." Ouch, Neil. Here's one from, oh my God, look at this. Now, I'm going to quote from P.Z. Myers, the eminent P.Z. Myers. You know, if P.Z. Myers says it, it's got to be true. That's for sure.
Of course.
Yeah. So here's P.Z. Myers. What's missing in philosophy is that anvil of reality. It fits right in with the book, right? So there's the charge against philosophy. It's just kind of just some guy talking. Just talking, but there's no criterion of truth.
The irony is strong when P.Z. Myers says that.
I know, right? Like, of all people to say,
the anvil of reality.
Somebody needs an anvil of reality. I feel like that could be, well, anyway. And good old, I don't know if any of you watched the good old Bill Nye video. They caused a little stir recently.
Not Bill Nye.
Not Bill Nye. Yes, Bill Nye. He had the guy on his little Big Think. He has a Big Think series, and one of the questions was a guy majoring in philosophy, and he said, what does philosophy have to contribute to all this? And it was, I don't know. I like Bill Nye, by the way, but he went on this weird ramble that really doesn't make any sense. I had trouble making sense of it, but it was all like, well, you can ask philosophy questions all day, but if you drop a hammer on your foot, it hurts. So there, philosophy. Like, what's the point of asking, is the hammer real? It hurt your foot. But that's what a philosopher does. He asks, is the hammer real? So, it's philosophy, And he kind of rolls it all together with this kind of, I guess his point was like, it's just common sense. It's just going to entrap you in common sense and it's not going to get anything done. It's not going to get that hammer off your foot. But it's never going to, philosophy is never going to surprise you. Which, okay, yeah, I'm sure you can, I'm sure already you can sense that's a really odd assessment of philosophy, that it can't surprise you. That it's just trapped in common sense. It just all feels like all of these guys really didn't ever bother to look into what philosophy talks about, really. If they did, it was, I don't know, just like when I hear these, like what Rebecca Newberger Goldstein says in the book, she calls them philosophy jurors. Seems like a lot of these people, like their image of philosophy is like, hey man, did you ever wonder if that hammer was real or not? Like, we don't know,
The pain, it might just be, I feel the pain because society expects to hurt. I've been socially programmed to think I should feel pain when the hammer drops on my foot. Yeah.
What if what you're feeling is the hammer's pain? Did I just blow your mind?
Oh my God.
Did you ever think about that? Right? And that's philosophy right there, because like that's me just talking, right? I've just said a bunch of crap, right? And I've done some philosophy now. Maybe when you drop a hammer in your foot, actually you're feeling a hammer's pain. And there we go. We've had a philosophical dialogue. And that's what philosophy amounts to. There's no criterion of truth. You can just say whatever the hell you want. It's a one-way discussion. Uh, I would say that's the bulk of the charges that come up in the book. If anything you want to add to that, anybody? No?
I guess we incorporated the charge that it doesn't make any progression. That was a big one.
Yeah. It doesn't establish anything, doesn't make progress.
Another, like, that was kind of the main objection. Another little one that they bring up, especially in the first dialogue. Was that a loss for words there for a second? But one of the things they bring up is, who are philosophers to say, hey, X, Y, or Z?
Yeah.
Because of the way they allow philosophical questions relate to our everyday lives.
Yeah. This is going to come up again and again. She likes to incorporate these ethical questions in, these kind of inescapable ethical questions. And this question, who's to say, comes up quite a few times in the book, probably on purpose. This idea that philosophers ask questions, but they don't have any means to getting around to the answer. Like, the philosopher is just some guy who sits around saying, like, well, I think that's wrong, so, it's wrong. And he's like this arrogant guy up on a pedestal deciding everything.
Yeah, this is how you should live your life, because as I'm a philosopher, my opinion's right.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I guess this is some people's idea of what goes on in philosophy. Maybe.
I've actually met with this type of response. You're like, well, that's what you choose to believe, but I choose to believe otherwise, and that's a-okay. Okay, and who are you to say what's right, wrong? It's like, well, I'm not an authority on it. That doesn't mean we can't and discuss it and perhaps as both reach mutually better conclusions. But yeah, I've had people just, when I try to have a conversation on philosophical ethical topics, just shut it down. They say, you believe what I want to believe, or you want to believe, I'll believe what I want to believe. If we're done, there's no need for this discussion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hate to be, so harsh, but I guess sometimes it feels like people just don't care. They don't care about analyzing their opinion or finding out if it could be modified, or even asking the question, could it be wrong? They just don't care that much. So they just want to end the discussion. They don't really take it all that seriously. Because they probably think there is no answer to be had. I just have an opinion, and you just have an opinion, and that's it. We're done. Why do you have that opinion? Why do I have my opinion? Not even going to get to that step.
I mean, God. Actually, yeah, it was this book. It was in the first chapter. The man walks into a seminar room where she, I think, quoting somebody, he describes philosophy as an act of violence. And I think this is kind of the key into this. I mean, this is why a lot of people will avoid it, because it's hard. And you really, to get into philosophy, you almost have to be attacked. Somebody just like the guy in Plato's cave had to be dragged kicking and screaming out of it. It does require violence to be done to you, and then once you have that violence done, that wall broken down, then you're ready for philosophy.
Yeah. Some of that always reminds me of when the Christians call the atheists arrogant, right? Remember that? Right. It reminds me of that. They're like, you arrogant atheists, you think you have the answer for everything. And if you really know what atheism's about, it always strikes you, you're almost dumbfounded. You don't know what to make of that, right? That feels like it's the exact same position, just thrown onto philosophy.
Yeah.
You're taking the skeptical position, right? You're taking the position that something is open for debate, and they're accusing you of being the arrogant one, right? Um, that's a very common feeling. Um,
I have to say, like, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, a lot of times what these people are saying is, like, how dare you disagree with common sense?
Or my common sense.
Yeah.
Because people do tend to. I mean, I'm not going to put myself above this, by the way. They people, probably myself included, do tend to use themselves as the measure of common sense.
Yes, I've had quite a few discussions with people who feel like, yes, their opinions basically equal common sense.
Yeah. Even though if you ask them what common sense is, I'm sure they'd be lacking for any kind of rigorous definition of what that even means, other than I've heard a few things.
Yeah.
When you actually start asking what is common and how do you know, you're already moving away into debatable, almost pseudo-philosophical questions.
I mean, if you're already coming around to the idea that common sense itself is a viewpoint, one of many.
Yeah.
That is not there by necessity.
Yeah, you've already lost, basically.
Your idea that somehow there's a default position from which all these people studying philosophy or atheists or whatever have jumped ship from. It starts sinking pretty quick. I hope it would anyway.
Well, no, that's when people. Well, yeah, you have to either let the violence be done or dig in your heels. I often say, no, we're done. And should not use it was done in both of those propositions. It's just confusing word choice. I apologize, but Wittgenstein would not have liked me for that.
I don't know. Whenever you hear this, like that's what you think, and that's what I think, and that's what you think, and this is what I think, and I have every right to my opinion. It's a delicate situation. Like when somebody has said that, I have given up on them. Like I feel like they don't want to talk. I don't. What do you say in reply to somebody who says that? Like I have every right to my opinion. Who are you to tell me that I'm wrong? I mean, at that point, who is going to listen? Who's listening in this conversation anymore? I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but at that point, I'm just like, okay. I never said you couldn't have your own opinion. That was never part of the discussion.
I just said let's talk about your opinion.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, when I'm desperate, I always tell them in the end, I'm not the one that's going to tell you you're wrong, right? You're going to figure that out for yourself, hopefully, right? Like it's not me that's imposing that idea on you. In the most perfect world, right? It's not an imposition from outside per se. Hopefully, if the dialogue is open, but by that point, yeah, I give up too almost.
Yeah,
they don't want to talk.
Yeah, say then okay, cool. Let's find out why you're right.
Yeah.
Like if your opinion, there's nothing wrong with your opinion, let's examine it, find out why it's right, and I'll adopt it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you do end up moving into this area of, well, is any opinion okay? And this is how the first dialogue got toward the end, like toward the very end, where the two are talking in the bar, and she's like, well, why didn't you just say there is no answer to any ethical question? We're all just making crap up, right? These answers don't exist. Then but the what's her name refused to accept Rachel. Carol refused to accept. Carol refused, or they refused to accept that there is just anything is okay. Kind of reminds me of our discussion a little bit in the Tetralogue too.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Where I mean, it's all hunky dory when I guess you don't have to get your hands dirty, but I mean, you do have to get your hands dirty just to live. And you're getting your hands dirty every day. You can't just somehow levitate above the whole thing and look down upon it as a god, and feel you're totally unconnected, unrelated to it.
Mm.
Um,
and the one thing that I always think about with Tetra a lot when I think back at its original that I've had since reading, and it's like, okay, some opinions, are inherently wrong. You do not have a right to your own opinion as long as you're living in society, because your opinion is your actions. These cannot be separated. So then, am I right? Am I allowed to have my belief that all black people should be killed on sight? Right? If you say, oh, you can believe that, you just can't act on it, you're telling me I can't believe it. That's
seriously believe it, yeah.
Thing. So either all opinions are right and you can't tell me not to kill black people, or some opinions are wrong and you can tell me not to hold them. So beliefs, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, the only thing you can do is, I don't know, I feel like is that you have to do the same thing Socrates does, is if they're not, you have to fight the battle that they're willing to fight. Like, if they don't want to, if they're, and I find the same thing, they're just lazy. They don't care about this topic. And whatever they don't care about, they don't want to fight that battle. Wow. Who cares? Who cares? But there are things, there's nobody on this earth that doesn't have concerns about something, right? You're gonna find that somewhere, right? And you're gonna have to find, then you have to take that and find the inner contradictions in it, and it's this slow psychological process. It's like going to a psychologist, and you have to make them realize from there, look, this thing you're concerned about, right? See how that transferred to this position. See how it's similar to this position. There has to be a kind of internal consistency here. That could take years and years of wearing down, finding what they care about, and that ain't gonna work for most people. I mean, because once they realize that their opinions aren't just random, they don't roll the dice, right? First of all, they don't decide what's important by themselves anyway.
Yeah.
They don't decide what's to care about at random,
or what's meaningful,
at random. I mean, once they realize that they're not coming up with their opinions all by themselves, then the discussion begins. But
yeah. I mean, it's tough. I think when people are first approached with this, they kind of come at it with either it's all set in stone or it's all up for grabs.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, slowly, hopefully, you work somebody into a position that's a little bit less, how should I say, rigidly opposed. I mean that we can navigate a middle ground. That a middle ground can exist between literally God imbued the universe with a set of eternal values, or everything's just a bunch of particles going around and you can literally do anything you want and that's all okay. But I don't think, again, people just don't want to think about that or even want to go there. That's why I sometimes preface my conversation with look, I don't know, I just don't know how serious you want to think about this. If you just don't care about this, then fine, that's fine. But if you really seriously want to talk about why you think, why you think religion is the only source of morals, the only way you could get morals is from a god, right? And I just don't trust this guy enough to sit down and think about the Euthyphro problem seriously, the Euthyphro dilemma. I mean, I could give it to him, but I just wonder how seriously he's going to sit down and consider it. I mean, seriously doubt he would even want to sit down and consider it, the Euthyphro dilemma, seriously.
Yeah, I don't know. Just as a sidetrack, it's not part of this book, but I think part of the struggle, at least when I come for it, when I'm discussing with some people, is I think part of the difficulty I have is some people don't have enough confidence in themselves. Yeah. So they think that even if, for example, I would tell them some kind of, I would debate and I don't know, whatever it means to win the argument about religion. All they would say is, well, that's because I couldn't argue it. But if it was my pastor over here, he could have done it, right? I mean, there's always somebody else that they're transferring their belief off to.
Believes for you, as Zizek talks about, right?
They believe for you, right? So, I mean, it doesn't matter how much I attack their base, their main position is, well, this guy believes it, right? Or, you know, my priest, or I don't know, Ted Cruz, or somebody's believing it for me. I don't have to do it by myself. I don't know. It just makes it a really, really hard battle um, to fight.
Yeah, I think too, like, if you go into like an intro to philosophy class, like the way some of them start is like they start, or at least the ones I mean, in mine or in ones I've looked at, some of them start in the really, really boring area of epistemology. And for a while, I was like a little bit confused. Like, why would you start a class about epistemology and like Plato's idea that it's true justified belief, that that's what knowledge is? And it's so dry. I mean, if I had like my professor, he's just like, this is so boring. This is so boring. We just have to get through this. But like, it's been a long time since I had that class, and sitting there reading this book, with looking at Plato here and thinking about it again, maybe I'm coming back around to maybe that being a interesting place to start if it was just introduced in a different way. The idea that like you need an account with a logos for it to be your knowledge. You know what I mean? If you don't have that logos, you don't have that knowledge, right? And I think that's scary, what you're just talking about, Dustin. Like, people are unsure of themselves because they can't give that account. They can't give that account, and they have to risk looking foolish. And I think philosophy, like, if we have a real dialogue, I mean, going back to Fleming, right? Like, our ignorance is so deep, right? Especially what we can produce in conversation. It's so limited, right? Go 2-3 questions down on just about anything, and we're in ignorance. We're floating on top of a sea of ignorance, like he said. And I think that's scary to a lot of people. They can't produce this logos or whatever, this account, this justifying account on command. And I guess maybe the first thing is to just realize, that's something you gain over time, and it's not scary to not have a logo, so you can always come back and get one and justify your account later. But it's just, what do you know now? How much do you really know? And is it like really know? Like, you can give an account of with a justification.
And to do that, you have to have a definition of how you would come to know something.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, how is dialogue possible, and how would you come to know the truth? That's why these classes would have to start the way they do, with epistemology. What does it mean to know something? Otherwise, pretty soon you're thinking that Bush brought down the Twin Towers or something. And jet fuel can't still beams, right? Like, if you start, like, I guess some of these people are kind of worried that, like, the second you start moving away from common opinion, right, you can get sucked up into these kind of scam artists that are going to take you down to their own whacked out theories of truth, right? I don't know. They don't want to venture too far off of the beaten path here.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried about that, maybe.
Yeah. Of course, that was one of the points of the video that you linked today, Justin. It's like that actually philosophy protects you from these sham artists.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is the Thunk video, right? That guy's pretty good. I like that guy. I like the Thunk guy. So yeah, philosophy will guard you against all these kind of insidious viewpoints, which,
Yeah.
I mean, give people enough time. Let them let them sit, let them stew, let them get out of college for a while, let them get married, have children, and have a lot of time alone. A lot of time alone. A lot of thinking time. I'm telling you, this is going to come up again, right? I mean, this is why, like, who mentioned this? Did any of it? Like, I was reading another guy, like the Euthyphro dilemma. Was that the Thunk guy? The Euthyphro dilemma is, like he said, it's an argument that's been refuted many times, right? But it comes up again and again and again and again and again. You can't escape it. It's there. It's waiting for you. Or not the Euthyphro, Pascal's wager.
Pascal's wager.
Pascal's wager. That was it. Pascal's wager is sitting there waiting for you if you're not kind of you don't have a bulwark of a rational, logical way of thinking. You're just going to fall into it someday. Maybe, I mean, there's a chance of it anyway, if you have enough alone thinking time.
And there's others waiting to pull you off into their crazy side roads, just sitting off to the side. But I mean, maybe some people just feel like, well, if I have to brave that, I might as well just fly the normal route, go normal. I don't know.
So, I'm on that topic. Let's just bring it back to the book a little bit. I'm kind of zooming off to the book, but like back on this idea of one thing that Rebecca Newberger Goldstein does here is she brings in a lot of ethical issues. They come up quite a bit, and I think one of the reasons she does this is because a lot of these ethical issues are not determined by empirical data, right? So you can have all the empirical data you want. That's not going to get you the answer to the question, though. For example, should we follow common sense? Well, you could have that ease system that Marcus proposes, and he could literally gather all common sense, every single bit of it, and we could categorize it in a huge computer system, maybe even more advanced than Google could ever dream of. It's still not going to get you to that question, should we follow common sense? That's just not going to happen. The empirical data is not going to determine that. Or, for example, like this is the book. Like I said, remember I told you before. Like one of my hobbies is getting these intro to philosophy books, or like these ones on the bookshelf. So my newest one here is this one. It's by Julian Baggini. It's Without God Is Everything Permitted. This is in a series of big question books. I like it very much. But like it's a series of questions. I mean, just which one of these questions could be determined by simply looking at the facts? I'm not sure. Is there a golden rule? Do the ends justify the means? Is terrorism ever justified? Should we favor our families and friends? How much should we give to charity? Are drug laws morally inconsistent? Do animals have rights? Is abortion murder? Is sex a moral issue? Right? It goes on. I mean, you could facts will help in determining your answers, but they're not. It's not going to determine which answers we're seeking, though. We're going to have to settle that not with simple fact gathering. That's going to be handled on a different level. I think this is one reason why she brings in a lot of these ethical arguments. No.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess they're going to the more sophisticated people are going to start. You know, I think I'm not on the side, but they're going to bring a more sophisticated argument. Is going to be something like a Sam Harris kind of argument, right? Is like, well, now that we have brain science, we can actually scan the brain and find the situations in which people are thriving in.
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess the thing with Sam is, I was kind of happy you brought up Sam Harris. I guess Sam's deal is like he feels that anything other than utilitarianism is actually incoherent. Yeah. Right? He doesn't feel any other position exists. Like literally, there is no other position besides. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to pigeonhole it. He kind of accepts some kind of consequentialism of well-being. I'm not going to pigeonhole him directly into utilitarianism, but I mean his deal is like anything he says like even like Kantian deontological stuff, for him this just pans out into consequentialism, and I think that's how he can get off on that claim. But that claim still needs to be made before the science can help, though, right?
Yeah.
We still need to say that this is the best way because all other ways are, I guess, somehow non-viable or they're logically inconsistent or they don't make sense. I don't know. I'm not going to ride with Sam Harris all the way down his little train ride of everything pans out into consequentialism, because I think you could also flip it and say consequentialism actually pans out into deontological reasoning too. I mean, you could take the train both ways, maybe. But still, I think that's how he gets off on that. That's why I don't know. Originally, when he came with his idea, like, science can help us determine morality. I don't think that's. I think he just his idea is right. Just with these set of presuppositions in place, then all we need to do is get the data in. Now that we have this set of data, these presuppositions all cleared away, finally we can just focus on getting the data on well-being, right?
Yeah. And he's still got a lot of work to do to define, or a more robust definition of thriving, right? Even though I'm kind of like in the same area as you, I'm kind of with him because he's justified it a little bit more than he had in the past. But
Yeah.
it seems like not all of these are going to be merely, or in a very warped way, consequentialist, but I don't know, merely consequentialist results, right?
I mean, I guess I just wonder what he would say about, like, for example, has he talked about this? I can't remember, but like, what would he say about the noble lie? Right, this came up in one of the dialogues. So, what if the noble lie? I mean, because he actually did say, like, on the Bad Wizards podcast, he said, I think he said, like, basically, I'm open to utility monsters. Right, utility monsters are kind of a bit of a looming thing over my argument. So, like, what if there was like the noble lie? We lie to the mass of people to improve their general well-being, but by doing that, like as brought up in the book, right, we violate their kind of dignity as people. I don't know, maybe you have to get out of it by some way by saying, like, by doing that you're undermining the trust in society on the long haul or something like that. But I wonder, like, if there was some kind of guarantee that the lie would never be found out, would he be willing to go for the noble lie and violate human dignity as long as it produced more well-being? I'm not sure.
Like Batman?
Like Batman, yes. Like Batman.
Like Batman. I mean, but even Mill was already on about higher pleasures, so, and he wasn't kind of per se consequentially justifying those. There's a depth in there that requires a little bit more explanation than hedons, calculating hedons, right?
Yeah.
And maybe a connection with reality is that.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that's probably Sam might just say, like, yeah, maybe these higher pleasures are the ones.
But it'd be difficult for him to start. I mean, like, if they had some kind of virtual world or this lie that he could tell the people, I don't know how he'd get out of it. Purely on a very simplistic consequentialist view, but I don't think he holds that simple consequentialist view, actually. So.
No, I mean, definitely not. I don't want to pigeonhole Sam Harris. I don't think we should get into it so deeply without some text in front of us either. But
yeah. No, but yeah, I'm saying, like, he would. There are people like him, or at least others neuroscientists, that would say, well, I mean, maybe not Sam Harris per se, because he's a lot more sophisticated and a lot smarter when it comes to this. He actually knows his philosophy. But I mean, there's going to be others who'd be like, well, we'll just put people in certain states and see their brain patterns, and if their brain pleasures, their centers for happiness are lighting up, we found the correct answer for this moral problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Just don't do it when, like, people are, like, punching gay people.
Yeah.
Pleasure centers are all lighting up, right?
So, like, when you're posting on Poll and 4chan and you're making racist, sexist tweets, right, or posts on 4chan, right? I'm sure the pleasure centers are lighting up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the question of meaningfulness is still not touched by neural brain science, or what we should take as a meaningful or good way to live, because it's not entirely in your brain.
Yeah, right. Okay. So what do you want to go on to in this? I think, like, in general, her reply to these people, these kind of what she calls philosophy jurors, is something along the lines of, like, a lot of times she's kind of like saying, like, nudge nudge, hey, you guys, you're actually buddy with Plato.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't realize it, but Plato is really on your side. That would be nice if people realized that a little bit more. Like, I bet you didn't know this, but Plato is actually kind of in the same game as you. So she goes on that. She goes on these ethical issues, and then she does try to. I think she tries to offer the idea that, how should I say? Philosophy is not a one-way conversation, and that there are truth criteria out there that are not. And I think like, listening to some of her lectures, one of the criteria she poses is consistency, like making our views consistent, or trying to figure out how changes in our perception of reality should be incorporated into our worldview to make it consistent with that reality, and how we should deal with that reality we're finding out is different than was before. This is another area where philosophy is going to kind of make the jump between these two viewpoints. And other than that, the only other thing I got was, other than that, these guys are kind of just ill-informed about what it is that philosophers talk about, really. Did you get any other answer from her about this in general?
Well, I think one of the most interesting sections for me was the advice columns, actually.
Ah, the Margot, dear Margot.
Yeah. What I felt what she was doing there was she was trying to point out that, even if you're not sitting down with your philosophy book and saying, okay, let's discuss the nature of consciousness, yes, these philosophical questions come up everywhere. Yeah. Now, even when you're having a fight with your wife, you're having a philosophical discussion about the nature of the good, though probably it's not a very productive one because he's all cranked up on tilt. But the point is, it is still a philosophical discussion, and by having a better in the talk you linked to, which is great, by the way, she talks about the philosophical tool set that to examine things, and by having a better tool set from studying philosophy, you're better equipped to deal with these very one of a kind philosophical questions. Do I go for the bad boy who dumps me, et cetera, et cetera. These circumstances to every one of these particular philosophical questions in this advice column section are different and wholly unique, but by being better equipped to deal with them, you're better able to deal with them.
Mm-hmm. Great, yeah, that's yeah. I think she's definitely after that as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I like both of what you said. I don't know if this fits in, but that joke she told early on, this joke, after a lifetime of hard work and bad luck, Jane makes a killing in the stock market and buys a villa for himself. Jake makes a killing in the stock market and buys a villa for himself and is a bride of 40 years. Mimi and prime real estate in Miami Beach. The first evening that they've settled in, he and Mimi go out to the patio to enjoy their view of the Atlantic Ocean. And Jake discovers that it's obscured by the trees of their neighbors. It's okay, he says to Mimi, trying to calm her down. Jake gets right on the phone with the neighbors, and after extensive bickering, they agree that if he pays for it, they'll top their trees. The landscaping work is done, and Jake and Mimi take their positions that evening on the veranda. Alas, the topped-off trees still get in the way of the view. Jake calls the neighbors, demanding the trees will have to go down right down to the roots, but this time the neighbors balk. It's okay, Mimi is heard plaintively begging in the background, but Jake, determined that he and Mimi will get the view that they've spent years of scrimping and scraping to deserve themselves, offers to buy the neighbor's villa at an inflated price. The neighbors immediately agree, and as soon as the papers are signed, Jake has the offending trees cut down. Jake says to Mimi that evening as they sit on the veranda drinking in their unobstructed view of the Atlantic Ocean, there are some things that money just can't buy. That joke, right? That, that's how I feel when scientists are like, we don't need you anymore. You're kind of like, well, thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. Or whenever the psychologists or whenever it feels like they've spent, they're living atop of years and struggles and decades of breaking new ground and asking new questions, and they're kind of like, yeah, well, we didn't need philosophy for that anyway. When they're using it every moment of their day to determine not only the problems that they outside of their work, but they're using it to determine the standards by which they judge the truth in their own fields. I don't know. It's really frustrating. But I guess when philosophy works well, it kind of almost should be kind of turning back invisible until another problem appears to make it kind of the whole system shaken up a little bit, right?
And that's, of course, the example I'm sure we all thought of before. Or Carol? Well, well, whatever his name was in the Googleplex.
Cheryl. Yeah.
Yeah, before I'm sure we all thought before Cheryl even said it, but like slavery, we all inherently know that's wrong. And it seems so trivial, but it wasn't. It obviously wasn't. So it was an institution that existed for thousands of years without anybody questioning it. But when philosophy won that battle, well, that victory just became trivial. That's how philosophy works, which is why it seems like we're not making progress.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can see, like, people, I mean, like, getting angry at this. I mean, like, obviously philosophy can't do all the work by itself. I get it. Like, for example, it was pointed out in the Honor Code, too, right? I mean, the arguments had been placed for years that slavery was a bad thing, but it required kind of a shaming process, to put it bluntly, to end slavery. The world had to be shamed into stopping it. But like as what was his name? Kwame
Anthony.
Yeah, he knew very well. You can't win the day with just shaming.
Yeah.
Right. This philosophical work had to have been done first. Because if the world were simply, well, we're just going to shame people into obeying what I say because I say it, it'll be a much scarier place. Japan. I mean, no, it's a joke.
Well, it's because Japan and on several issues lacking these arguments, they chose the other response to shame, which would be to say, fuck you, you just don't get us.
Yeah.
Who are you? So it's because these philosophical arguments were in place that when that shaming came, they said, okay, crap, we've been ignoring this all this time. We all know it was wrong, but now we're ashamed, so now we got to do it.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, in the best of all worlds, like, even when they talk about the Chinese and the foot binding, right, in the best of all the worlds, one would hope that the Chinese should have felt shame of their own accord. Right? They should have felt shame at their own actions, hopefully in the end. And they know why they should have felt shame for having foot binded. I mean, there were philosophers in China that had been, and social advocates in China that had been trying to stop it for years. But hopefully, in the end, like, it's not just simply because the West came over with their big military outfits and their big guns and bullied them into stopping foot binding, which I'm sure some kind of, right-wing revisionist historian in China is still kind of writing little scribes about to this day about how they were bullied into throwing away part of their culture. But hopefully it was more of an internal turn, and it was an internal turn in China, at least more than maybe some of these right-wingers want to believe. And the same thing that happens even in Japan, too. Like, these right-wingers want to be like, well, we were pressured into doing this. It was just the West bullying us. Well, they just don't want to admit that Japan is fractured and there are alternate opinions in this country. But, I mean, all that philosophical footwork, that was all done already. And, without that, this world is a nightmare, I think. Right. If all it is, well, this bigger guy is shaming and bullying the weaker guys.
That argument and you're presenting there sounds very, very familiar. Right? I think Plato addressed that argument in one of his most famous works.
Well, I don't know which one that could be.
Yeah.
I don't know if we spent a lot of time on that or not.
The fact that there are logical inconsistencies even in that belief for people who want to assert that. Ones we've known for a long time too.
Yeah. So,
speaking of the Republic, I did like how the first dialogue was structured like the Republic.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice touch. By the way, just as a side note.
Yeah, that's why I love how they had you had your Thrasymachus, your Thrasymachus.
Thrasymachus.
Thrasymachus, I believe.
Oh God, don't bring that back, Thrasymachus.
Correct pronunciation.
But on that, like, it's interesting. I don't know what do you think, but I thought kind of a sub theme running through all the dialogues was there are quite a few characters who didn't know themselves. I thought that was a theme running through the dialogues. For example, Cheryl. Cheryl doesn't know herself, and there are various examples of how she preaches one thing and acts one way and acts another way. She hates arrogant people, but she's extremely arrogant. She's the one who sets Plato on the road of getting rid of sexist language, but she uses sexist language without even realizing it, right? She says you need a chutzpah or balls, right? She's the first one to run for male genitalia when it's a symbol of power, right? I mean, or the woman, the psychoanalyst who rebelled from psychoanalysis to help children, right? She's all about how, all lives are equal, but she's virulently obsessed with a heroic life without even realizing. I mean, like, Rebecca Newberger Goldstein even makes notes in the footnotes. Like, she screws up Plato's allegory of the cave by making it more heroic, because she's obsessed with her own, subconsciously obsessed with her own heroics and being this brave champion of the truth, which, I mean, not going to say that's a terrible thing by any means, but she doesn't know herself, right? She doesn't realize that she's actually striving for a higher life, while at the same time denying that this higher life exists or can exist. I think maybe one of her points in here was that Plato of philosophy is going to help you kind of take another look at yourself, right, and try to get you to be more consistent with your views.
I mean, you'd even then. And it's kind of funny that we did this after we did our implicit bias tests. Because isn't that one of the things philosophy tries to get at? Is, maybe it's not like implicit bias against women or against black people, how I associate with those words, but it is trying to get at implicit bias. Yes, help you examine those, help you weed them out. So you can have a clearer vision of the world.
Yeah. Or for you more angrier members of YouTube, a false accusation of implicit bias. How about that?
Yeah, there we go. We got both sides now.
Both sides. Philosophy does both sides. It helps you steer away from false accusations of implicit bias, if that is your thing.
I don't know. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't know. Is there anything you want to address on this main question of why philosophy won't go away? I mean, she really is of the opinion. I'm with her on this too. That, like, it's just not going to go away. We're not going to come up with a system to get rid of these questions and then say goodbye philosophy. It's just not going to happen.
Wait. Logical notation won't do that for us?
Unfortunately, no. No. I suppose we could try to dissolve all questions and show that they're actually non-questions, but that didn't work out either. Huh? Imagine that.
No!
I know. Oh my God, we're forced to ask the question and maybe not even have the answer. Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, like, we already know, I mean, just alone, that as long as we're changing and changing our consciousnesses of ourselves, that the answers to the questions will change. The way we think about it, if the way we think about ourselves changes, the answers to these questions will change anyway, right? So as long as we're still changing as a species and adapting and moving on, the answers to these questions will change. They have to.
And new questions will pop up as society.
Right. Yeah. Well, as we change our way of living too, technology will change the questions.
Because I don't think the Greek philosophers were sitting back in the academy discussing the morality of net anonymity. God, I can't talk today. Hey, net Say the word for me.
Anonymity.
Thank you. God damn
anonymity, right? Well, I mean, all those posts about Socrates on 4chan, I don't know, that was Plato's big thing. How dare you? Yeah, I mean, like I mean, just that alone. But I don't know, like even if for say, like I don't know, somehow our the way we thought about ourselves and technology stopped changing the situation in which we were in, like there's always going to be, or there's going to be a necessary space for philosophy still, I think, right? Because um, it has to. I mean, hopefully, one of the things that philosophy do is not only good at answering questions, it also does what Socrates did, which is making a space for questions, right? So, I mean, like the fact that philosophy doesn't answer the questions might be not. It's not a glitch; it's a feature.
Mm.
That the fact that these spaces are ripped open that's the point.
Mm.
So, accusing philosophy of opening up spaces for questions and being like, "Hey guys, where's your answer?" Well, that was the point, right? At least that was part of the point.
Hmm.
That's why none of these dialogues ever come to a definitive conclusion.
Mm.
Every single one of them is just a space that's been ripped open.
That's what Socrates was doing too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I did like. Also, another thing I sent you guys was this. I like what you said, Dustin. Also, another thing I sent you guys was this article by Raymond Tallis.
Yeah, I read it.
In the newest issue of Philosophy Now. But I like Raymond Tallis. I like him a lot, and he addresses. It's so timely. He addresses this very topic about philosophy and how it doesn't make progress. Damn you, philosophy. He calls it the articles the P word, progress, right? But I kind of like it in the end. I thought it was really interesting how he said like part of what philosophy does. He labeled it. And maybe Jesse, you mentioned this before about like not falling into traps, but he kind of called it being awake. Philosophy keeps you awake to the issues and not kind of falling asleep into the slumber of common sense and being kind of carried along with it, and maybe you're able to maybe go against the tide of common sense. But I thought it was really interesting too as I was reading the article. I really flashed on was Camus' lucid man. Like being lucid was how for Camus being lucid was an end in itself. And this is what actually Raymond Tallis ends up saying. That being awake is an end in itself. It's just a good to be awake. And I was like, oh man, okay. That kind of gave me an interesting new perspective on Camus and maybe what his absurd man is. His absurd man is kind of a philosophical man, maybe. Or he might turn out to be a philosophical man if Raymond Tallis had his way with him. I thought that was really cool.
Definitely. Ayn Rand, not the, I'm sure there's some of these people on the internets that read the Ayn Rand. I bought her book, What is Philosophy? And she has a little essay on the point of philosophy. I got it somewhere around here. But she gives a similar answer in the end after talking a lot. She says a philosophy is a kind of a self-defense course for the mind. It's there to protect you from evil Kantians that want to brainwash you.
Damn those Kantians, most evilest people in the universe.
Ignoring the absurdity of her hatred for Kant, just utter absurdity of that, her answer was as a kind of a self-defense mechanism, which is interesting.
Say what you want about her, but she did really, really respect learning.
Yes.
She super respected learning. I mean. But yeah, remember way back, before we even started this channel, Dustin, did a couple mini videos before we did this, and that was actually my first video and the one you responded to a long time ago. It's non-existent anymore. Those videos. It was my first video was titled "Discussing 3 Objections to Philosophy" or something like that. The Virtues of Philosophy, I think it was titled, but it discussed 3 objections. It kind of ran along these lines. It was what philosophy is useless, philosophy is negative, there is no agreement, and philosophy is abstruse or weird. It's kind of maybe what Bill Nye thinks. And it tried to address all of these arguments about philosophy is useless. So, but it greatly affects how we think about the world, and how we think about the world greatly affects what we do. philosophy is negative, right? But that there's no agreement that that's somehow a bad part of philosophy. But maybe analyzing how people think, analyzing errors can lead us to better solutions, right? Exploring ramifications of our current viewpoints is a good in itself. And also, like, kind of like the point Sam Harris makes, or just a general point in general, right? Who's to say there's one answer to the question? Maybe there are several defensible answers.
Moral peaks, right?
Right, moral peaks, as he would say. But, you know,
Yeah.
why does there have to be one? Why can't there be several? And then we could, like, you know, talk about the several, debate among the several.
Yeah, and even if there isn't, and again, this is Sam Harris. Sam Harris said this too. Even if there isn't one right answer, there certainly are wrong answers.
Mm.
So at the very least, my guy. I get an example earlier who just thinks he should kill black people. Well, obviously that's the wrong answer. So, philosophy can help us avoid these wrong answers, even if there is no right answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd rather be not wrong. If I can't be right, I would rather be not wrong.
That's right. At least have a engaging little infinite negativity. What do you think? Unless you want to talk about any of the actual other points he brings up in the book about Plato or Greece, what do you we could wrap it up right now, I think, as far as the main question is concerned. Long story short, I just don't buy this idea at all that when people say like philosophy is dead or philosophy is useless, I think it really does come from a total misunderstanding of what's going on in philosophy, or fear, or unwillingness to even think about it. Like it's just too threatening to even think about it.
Yeah, or the just totally misunderstood belief that people think that philosophers are actually just sitting in dark rooms determining physics questions.
Yeah.
Like, not what they're doing, at least not anymore. That was a branch. Science was a branch of philosophy. Anyway, thanks to remember that, please, guys. That was called natural philosophy. That would be nice of you to, we're brothers here. So, a little bit of sympathy would be nice. It's not as if, like there's any serious philosopher that's sitting around saying, like, I don't know, that in some sense, at least this table in front of me doesn't exist in some sense or another. Right. I mean, maybe they'll disagree about the nature of reality or whether we're in a computer simulation or something. But they're definitely not trying to answer physics questions anymore. Because we know how to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, but I don't know, like that's my greatest fear is, part of what I was thinking about this entire time was, it was like, I don't know, I feel like some of these scientists are they're part of the revolt of the masses in an ugly way, right? Like, they think that by being specialists, that they don't need any of that, I don't know, that philosophical muscle that keeps those societies running, but just like Nietzsche noted, people aren't initially pointed to the truth. A society that values a democratic liberal institution that educates people in science is not a given. Just look at North Korea or any other society. I mean, you start tearing down these kind of philosophical pillars, and you'd be like, well, we don't really need to know that stuff anymore. A society that values science is not a guarantee. You're tearing down the structures of your own existence sometimes.
Yeah. And even if aspects of philosophy perhaps that we don't need anymore, or I mean, we're not going to need many people arguing against slavery anymore. Or that doesn't mean, it's just like we don't necessarily need certain aspects of technology anymore. Or it doesn't mean they weren't necessary.
I mean, there are people out there that are basically saying we don't need science. Science is not a valuable project.
I have heard this argument. They're like, well, science disproves itself, so science is just, it's just false. It's just as up in the air as anything else. I've heard this argument. I mean, It doesn't make a
Yeah.
whole lot of sense to
Or
me.
they're going to say something like, well, a more authentic life is one lived closer to nature without science.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're going to attack on so many different levels. I mean, like this society is not guaranteed in the slightest. This one we're living in. So, the surest way to tear it down though is be to tear down the very philosophical foundations that brought it up. So I don't know. It made me think of this book a lot.
Yeah. It's gotta, yeah, maybe it's not a good idea to rely on all those immigrants from the future.
Yeah.
I mean, like the immigrants from the future are gonna need to have a little of that philosophy imbued into them as well, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna keep on changing.
Hmm. It's just something that worried me as I was. I mean, and more and more scientists seem to be kind of. I don't know, but it seems like on YouTube. I mean, it's an easier sell on YouTube because there's a lot of I don't know angry people that are facing competing worldviews, and they're going to bring down the hammer one way or another against them. Maybe they're just. Some people are just inherently looking for different worldviews to compete against or to take on, but some of these YouTubers are, maybe they would know initially, inherently, like, well, the only way I can take these people on is through some kind of philosophical outlook, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know why the scientists wouldn't think that, but maybe they just kind of feel like that's a bunch of nonsense. I don't know, but it seems like philosophy is an easier sell on YouTube maybe than it would be in some of the academia, some of these scientists.
For some, yes, they are always there fighting this battle against religion. Of course,
exactly
too, but
yes,
it's very easy to misunderstand philosophy and lump it with religion.
And which is exactly what they do. Oh my God! Remember in our hometown, Dustin? You remember our local bookstore?
Philosophy and religion section.
Philosophy and religion section, right next to each other. Right?
They were
same
together.
thing. It was literally together. Yeah. Philosophy / religion. That was the same section in the bookstore, right? So you had Plato's Republic sitting next to the Bible. I can't believe you recommended the Republic to that person that one day either, by the way.
Yeah, those were different days.
Yeah.
I'm kind of proud of that.
It was really weird. This woman walked. We were both standing in the section. I did. Jesse went there, but we were standing in the philosophy section, which is also the religion section. This woman walks up to us and she said her son was depressed and he was feeling bad and he needed something to help him. And do we have any book we could recommend to him? You know what Dustin did? He turned to her and he said, he should try Plato's Republic. And she's like, oh, thank you.
It was an odd choice.
I thought that was an odd choice. And then she left. What?
It's not. Well, it's not entirely insane once you work through the violence. The violence that book does to you. It is uplifting in the end. But it ends on a sour note about poetry.
Maybe it'll get his mind off his problems.
You just want to be the guy who drags him out of the cave.
Yeah. Maybe he's gonna write the next, a Matrix movie. Who knows?
Plato at the Googleplex Part 2.
I have one question for you though, Dustin, about that.
Oh God.
Did you check the obituaries the next couple of weeks?
No, I did not. That could have been the first Plato-induced suicide in over 2,000 years. First one ever. Yeah. That was weird. I have to admit, those were different days, though. Those were stranger days.
Yeah.
We should say Max Stirner or something.
Yeah, I mean, Max Stirner's got a vision of philosophy too, though. He's got a vision of what philosophy can and can't do. For him, philosophy is Ghostbuster. Yeah.
Who are you gonna call? Max Stirner.
Killing those spooks in your head, man.
I can certainly see, that classic character of him does kind of look like Egon.
Yeah, he is kind of the Egon. He's PKE meter reading those bad ideas. Marx didn't like him for that, but oh well. Yeah, I mean, like that's not a bad idea though, right? It's not a terrible vision of philosophy. It's a kind of tearing down of unnecessary spooks or being haunted. That you are haunted by the past, right? That I mean, like I guess I kind of more be in the part of Hegel or in this area that basically your entire mind is inherited from your culture, basically, unfortunately, and there really is no you. If you want to have a you better start saying no, or at least opening up a space where you can actually incorporate the ideas into yourself. Otherwise, I don't know. You're not really there per se. You're just kind of one amongst many.
You are Das Man,
Yeah, you're Das Man.
part of the one.
The one.
So well, anyway, we'll have to get onto that one day.
One day.
One day. Good old Heidegger will be on the list. But we digress. I think this is pretty good. You guys are all good?
We're gonna, any other further discussion is going to go off of the book into just philosophy anyway. But yeah.
But I just, in the end, recommend or not recommend. I'm going to say recommend. Get yourself a copy of Plato at the Googleplex. It's a good read.
Yes. Pretty cheap. There's actually a newer version of this. I'm not sure what's different. But this version was pretty cheap. You pick it up on Amazon. Read it. It varies between being a little bit slow and being incredibly engaged. It has a little bit of pacing issues, but it's definitely worth going through everything.
I'm going to say, Jesse, I think you made the right choice. I have the hardcover. This thing's a monster. Yours looks much more manageable.
Oh, yeah.
Highly recommend the paperback.
Yeah.
This thing is insane. Oh, my God.
I have not held that, but yes, it's a very long book, as you guys can see. The long books, when they're hardcover, tend to get heavy.
It's a little too big.
Yeah. I have to admit, like, this is just a purely, I don't know, almost juvenile thought. But I'm sorry, but like, just the thought I had as reading the book, it was like, come on, I want to get to the next dialogue, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry to say, like, not to say that part in the middle between the dialogues wasn't informative and good, and I learned all about Greek culture and all about Plato and Socrates and their struggles, and it was incorporated into the dialogue later. It was perfect. I'm just saying, on a visceral level, I found myself saying, come on, I wish to read the next dialogue. Give me the next dialogue. That's because those are really exciting. I would read them in just in an instant.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And then I'd be back to kind of the history again.
If I took a break, it was in those mid-sections.
Yeah,
if there was a break, I never stopped in the dialogues. Yeah.
The breaks I took were all in the historical sections. The dialogues were fantastic.
As much as I like hearing about Alcibiades.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And who doesn't like hearing about Alcibiades?
I had to YouTube move him to find out how to pronounce that name.
Here's a crazy guy. I tell you, right? The more you look into his history, the funnier it is. I tell you. Okay, so yeah, Dustin, I think that's a full recommendation.
Definitely, fully recommended. The dialogues are fantastic.
Yeah, I really liked. I don't know why. I just liked how she brought in Frankfurt's bullshit article too.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was a nice touch. I was like, how is she gonna bring in Frankfurt's bullshit and mix it in with this? But I liked how she did it very well. I like how she introduced that idea that people, literally just don't care. Not that they want to lie. They just literally don't care about being what they're saying being true at all.
Yeah, that was really good. I liked how in Plato in the dialogue, somebody said, "Oh, that's bullshit." I think it was the cable news guy. He said, "Yes, bullshit. A very philosophical word."
Yeah, yes. Socrates probably would have said it if he had the chance. Maybe.
That was his accusation of the Athenian people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're all about your bullshitters. Because at least I realize that I don't know anything. You guys don't even care.
Mm.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to end on this note, but I just have to say it. Like, I watched that talk from Rebecca Goldstein that we linked to, that you linked us to.
Yeah.
The one on YouTube. She's done a couple of talks, but
She's got a couple. Yeah, I've watched 3 or so. Yeah.
but I'm sorry, I can't get over this. Like, I don't know why I do this to myself. I am a masochist, maybe
You
at
mean
heart.
reading the comments on the YouTube?
I read the comments
Oh my
on
God.
YouTube, and yeah, again, it's like I looked at the trap ray.
Don't look at the trap.
Yeah,
Don't look at the trap.
and I know this is not even philosophical or scientific to judge based on these comments, but wow, the commenters on YouTube are just terrible. They're just garbage. You know, this woman who is I mean, like she's just a scholar. I mean, she's written several books. She's specialized in philosophy. She's married to Steven Pinker, for God's sakes. She's been in academia for years. You know, she's extremely well educated. She knows Plato like the back of her hand. She's memorized parts of the dialogues, right? I mean, like, this woman is top notch. And yes, okay, this is a pop philosophy book. Yeah, okay, we all know that going in. This is trying to sell you philosophy in a fun way at times, right? And these pretentious comments on the bottom, like, what's the point of this? Right? What a fool. Like, you know, just don't even bother with her book. Go read The Republic yourself. Jesus. Like, you'd act as if, like, she had actually went over and slapped these people or, I don't know, stole their cars or something. Like, I mean, like, if you don't want to read the damn book, don't read the damn book. What harm did she do in showing like how philosophy is relevant to this century, which we sorely need because people are going to destroy it without it. I mean, we need warriors like her to stand up and say like, hey guys, this is a good conversation to have. No, it's not sophisticated enough. It's not good enough. Like, it's not a good. That was the author herself, and it's not a good enough presentation of even her own work. Yeah. What a bunch of pop nonsense.
You know, that's the thing with philosophy. There's so many popularizers.
Yeah.
I mean, we just need to thin them out a little.
Yeah, too many.
Unlike science.
I know. I couldn't hold back my sheer despair. I couldn't hold it back. And like, these are the people that are coming. I know that, but obviously the video has got upvotes up. They're mostly upvotes and it's liked. I know that. And looking at just like the majority of the comments were negative. I couldn't believe that.
No, I think that you don't comment unless you have something negative.
Exactly. I mean, it's not a scientific right. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, like, looking at those 4 comments is not a representative sample of the people that watch that video. It's just like it just scares me as to like one more reason why philosophy is necessary, because me looking at those comments made me despair. But I shouldn't, right? I shouldn't. Those are just 4 jerks, basically lazy, arrogant jerks, basically, that have to, I don't know, take a dump on everything they see because. But you know, it
feels good.
Yeah, right.
It feels good.
I don't know. It seems like a small number of people can change the way that information is being presented, unless you keep a philosophical mindset, right? Unless you've got your right thought process right. You look at those comments and you start to get warped. I'm starting to have this like very, I don't know. I just had that feeling when watching that. Like, even the comments themselves, maybe had to like do a double take. Like don't give in to your prejudices. Don't instantly react to this. Don't make yourself angry about. These are just a bunch of you know nobodies, right? They're you know, it's all the people that William Shatner sang about, right? Jack, never done Jack, and Don't Say Dick, and Two Thumbs Dawn are all commenting on YouTube, and yeah, I don't know. So this is a side comment. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think we've lost over one of our people here, but yeah, I guess there we go.
I'm back.
Back. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I have to put on my own kind of. I have to be careful. Maybe a more scientific view of YouTube, as it were, or a more philosophical view of YouTube, or just not look at the comments. But no, it troubled me. It disturbed me. I guess there's nothing good enough for some people.
Yeah,
nothing's good enough.
yeah, the more you look at the comments, the more you're just gonna start thinking people are just the most narrow-minded jerks who can't be happy with anything ever. That's if you read YouTube comments long enough, that's basically the image of humanity you're gonna get.
But it's not true, right? It's not
Yeah.
true. But man, I don't know.
Except for the people who comment on this video, of course.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, like, as strange as the idea that Plato has, like, and she comments on in this book about, like, how philosophy kind of lifts you out of time and brings you into eternity, as strange as that is, guess who needs that the most? It's those people. Oh my God, come on. Really? Really? You can't sit back for an instant and look at even a little bit of a larger picture and then say to yourself, what am I doing? Why am I writing this kind of mean comment? What's the point of it all? No, just this.
Yeah. Well, the point is to look down their noses at something.
Yeah. I mean, I do think this is a really strange view, but I mean, like, if you lift yourself up into this eternity that Plato talks about sometimes, like, or this eternal view or whatever, or that Rebecca Newberger Goldstein talks about, like, I would hope you would see how irrelevant that is as well, right? Yeah. And how meaningless that is. Like, somebody like that really needs that perspective a little bit more. Oh, well.
Yeah. I mean, I know, and it's not representative of anything, per se, but, yeah, I don't know. I just don't like it. And I have to learn to get past that, I guess.
So, yeah, YouTube is great.
Yeah.
That's our new opinion.
Yeah.
YouTube is great. YouTube comments are great. Like, comment, share, subscribe.
Thumbs up.
Follow us on social media. We have a Twitter account that we haven't posted on in, like, well over a year.
Yeah. Jesse, get on that.
We have a shirt store, I think. Did we ever get that going?
The shirt store exists. I just haven't. I need to get a link up to the shirt store, and then you can buy Tokyo Philosophical Society shirts. Oh my God, it's
like you're in Tokyo with us.
We're gonna wear those when you come to Japan, or if you are in Japan, wear them when you leave the house. You'll be the coolest person in the country.
It's still a better design than the official Olympic design for 2020.
I don't know. I do not hate the design.
I do not hate the design either. I could have used more color, but I do not hate the design. I just find it funny that we can't even decide on a design here. So, and it's still a better design than that one. Come on, no. It's a joke. It's not a bad design. The things we quibble about in Japan.
Yes.
Anyway.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the design perhaps later.
Yeah.
That's not timeless philosophical.
No, it is not. It's nonsense that we love to argue about here. So yeah, and we'll be back again with
another book.
Something else.
Another book. Maybe another book.
Yeah. And everyone keeping in mind that the project here is to just kind of have a post-book discussion here.
Yeah.
We're not summarizing the book for you.
Yeah, we should have said that in the beginning. We apologize. If you stuck with us until now, we super appreciate it.
Yes. I hope it's kind of like a post-movie video, right? You kind of enjoy talking about the book and the feelings you had about it.
Yeah.
So.
It's a reacts video, except rather than reacting right away, we kind of let it percolate and then react.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all. All I really want to say. Anyone else?
No, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, that's what we're doing here. So, if you have been watching so far, thank you very much. I'm pretty good. Definitely read the book. It's eminently readable. It's very writing is very well done. She's won awards for her writing. So
well, it's just a bunch of nonsense pop philosophy.
Nonsense pop. Well, Steven Pinker liked her writing style. That's how they met and got married. Ha ha! You're saying you're better than Steven Pinker?
Oh,
there's a philosophical question, huh?
Steven Pinker's data is wrong. I know, right?
Okay, no.
Proven.
Oh, please, if you like the video, like, subscribe, and certainly please join us next time. Or go back, look at some of our other videos, pick up the book, read it, watch it.
Yeah. Nothing can replace reading the book.
Yes.
No amount of discussion will ever replace reading the book.
Yes. Please, we highly recommend read the books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like describing gremlins.
Yes. Yes, which we will do someday. Which we will do someday. Someday. All right. So I guess until next time, yeah. Don't get caught up in your own common sense, man. And
Watch out for that hammer.
yeah.
It might not be real.
Yeah.
Man, totally, man. Think about that next time you drop a hammer, man.
I will think a lot about that. All right. So until next time, see ya.